So what if the reason your wallet feels, just dangerously light a week before payday has absolutely nothing to do with your salary?
Oh, yeah?
Like, what if it's completely tied to who you're having dinner with tonight?
It's a pretty jarring thought, honestly.
It really is. I mean, we always tend to treat financial bleeding like it's a math problem, right? Just numbers on a spreadsheet.
Right, exactly.
But what if it's actually a social problem? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're extracting these blueprints for turning complexity into confident growth.
And we are relying heavily on the digital footprint, the writings, and some really fascinating case studies from Andreano M.
Yeah, so for some context here, Andreano runs this consultancy platform and a YouTube channel called My Little Sharing.
Right, he's a Kuala Lumpur-based business strategist, and we're talking about 31 years operating right in the trenches.
31 years. That is a massive career.
It really is. I mean, it spans everything from advising solo founders who are just trying to launch an SME, all the way up to C-suite executives who are restructuring these massive corporate assets across Malaysia and Singapore.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the breadth of that experience across advertising, construction, retail, IT, that's what makes his framework so compelling for you.
Oh, for sure.
You really don't need to be some corporate titan to use them. Whether you're running a business, prepping for a brutal board meeting, or, just trying to manage your personal finances and stop hemorrhaging cash, his philosophy is completely universal.
Yeah, and the mechanics of that philosophy, they start at the ground level with this concept he calls financial maturity.
Right.
He has this community post that tackles that exact question you opened with. Like, why do high earners, even executives, constantly find themselves broke?
Which is crazy to think about.
It is. And what's fascinating here is that the surface level culprit is obvious, right? It's self-indulgence.
Sure. The impulse buys, the lifestyle creep, buying the newest gadget.
Exactly. But the secondary culprit he identifies is so much more insidious because it kind of masquerades as a virtue.
Oh, why?
Yeah, he points straight to social circle pressures.
Okay, I have to push back on that immediately.
Go for it.
Because treating your friendships like they're, line items on a P&L statement, that feels incredibly cynical.
It does sound a bit clinical at first.
Right, like if a friend invites you to a high-end restaurant or some country club event, declining just because they're a financial liability seems like a fast track to totally isolating yourself.
Yeah.
Is he saying we should just cut off friends who want to go out?
Well, no, it sounds ruthless if you view it purely through a transactional lens, but Andreano is framing this around energy and boundaries.
Okay, how so?
He advocates for what he calls a social circle audit.
The social circle audit.
Yeah, and the mechanism here isn't about, abandoning friends who just happen to like nice things. It's about identifying social friction.
Yeah, I see.
When you surround yourself with people who constantly lean on your generosity or who implicitly demand a lifestyle that you just haven't budgeted for, you're draining two critical resources.
Capital being one, obviously.
Right, your capital, but also your cognitive bandwidth.
Okay, so the friction is really the mental gymnastics you have to perform just to keep up appearances.
Exactly.
Which then completely distracts you from your actual financial goals.
You got it. You're spending all your energy managing their expectations instead of managing your own growth.
Wow, yeah.
So this audit asks you to look at the people you spend the most time with and just determine, honestly, do they respect your boundaries or do they exploit them?
That is a tough question to ask yourself.
It is. But to fix it, he lays out this sequential, actionable process. Step 1 is weekly expense tracking.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because you can't fix a leak if you don't know the velocity of the water.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Step 2 is setting a hard quantitative cap on indulgences.
Which kind of gives you permission to spend, but just within a calculated parameter.
Exactly. It's not about zero fun. It's bounded fun. Then step 3 is the audit itself.
Right.
Renegotiating the dynamics of relationships that drain you. And then the final step, and this is the most critical one, is redirecting that retained capital.
Oh, so not just leaving it in your checking account.
Right, because if you save money by skipping that expensive dinner, that money shouldn't just sit there waiting to be absorbed by another random expense. It gets immediately channeled into an investment or an emergency fund.
So you're capturing the leaked energy and actively putting it to work.
Precisely.
That pragmatic, almost unsentimental view of human behavior, it really bleeds into another one of his philosophies that we found in the sources.
Oh, the curiosity one.
Yes. There's that famous quote that gets endlessly repeated in intellectual circles, be less curious about people and be more curious about ideas.
Right, the Eleanor Roosevelt quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Andreano fundamentally rejects this.
He totally does. He argues that the quote creates a false dichotomy.
How so?
Well, you simply cannot separate ideas from the people who generate them.
Right, because ideas don't just exist in a vacuum.
Exactly. They are direct byproducts of human psychology, human fears, human ambitions. If you want to understand why a business strategy works or why a product fails miserably, you have to investigate the human experience that drove it in the first place.
That's a great point. It makes the whole gossip versus philosophy debate kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, it really does.
Because if you're studying how an idea impacts a community, you have to be deeply curious about the people in that community. You need that human context to make the abstract idea functional.
And that human-centric curiosity is the exact tool you need to diagnose organizational failure too.
Oh, for sure.
Because when we transition from personal finance to the corporate boardroom, the exact same delusions that ruin a personal budget are what destroy companies.
Which brings us to the business battlefield. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, buckle up.
Andreano has this core belief that frames his entire consulting career. He says, denial is the real killer, not failure.
Right, because in startup culture, we obsess over the fear of failure.
Oh, totally. Fail fast, break things.
Exactly, but he's isolating the variable here. The failure itself is just data.
Just information.
Refusing to acknowledge that data, that is what actually bankrupts you.
So it's the stubbornness.
He illustrates this with a deeply frustrating case study from his time supporting SME pilots.
Tell us about that one.
So he worked with this founder who had an objectively failing pricing model. I mean, the market was rejecting the product at that price point. The churn rate was incredibly high. The feedback was crystal clear.
The data was screaming at them.
Screaming. But the founder dug their heels in and absolutely refused to pivot.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
Because if you think about visionaries, like, say, Steve Jobs.
Classic example.
Right. He famously ignored market research. He operated on this assumption that consumers don't actually know what they want until you show it to them.
True.
So if you build a business from the ground up, you're pouring your absolute soul into it. It's really hard not to take it personally when a consultant walks in and says, you know, your baby is ugly.
Or that your roof is caving in, yeah.
Exactly. So where is the line between visionary conviction and fatal denial?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the line is the data itself, and specifically how you react to it.
Okay.
Jobs didn't ignore data. He ignored focus groups asking for incremental changes to boring products. He deeply understood human behavior, which goes back to our point on curiosity, by the way.
Right. He knew what people would crave.
But he wouldn't ignore a P&L statement that showed Apple was bleeding cash.
That's a huge distinction.
Yeah, and Andreano's framework for sustainable growth over burnout tackles your exact question. It requires this mechanism he calls operational humility.
Operational humility. I like that term.
It means you test, you measure, and you pivot. You have to decouple your personal identity from the product's current iteration.
So if the market rejects the pricing, it's not a rejection of you as a visionary human being.
No, not at all.
It's just a variable in the equation that needs adjusting.
Exactly. And that leads to the second pillar of his framework. Metrics over emotion.
Feedback is just fuel.
Just fuel. And the third pillar is strategic detachment.
Which means what exactly?
It means you serve the mission of the enterprise, not your own ego.
Wow.
And that founder in the case study we just talked about, they lacked strategic detachment. They defended the pricing model because changing it felt like admitting defeat.
And what was the result?
They lost their lead investor and the continuity of the entire business.
They literally chose to sink the ship rather than let someone else steer for 5 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much.
And what's wild is that this isn't just theoretical advice for tiny startups. Andreano applies this exact same mechanism of stripping away ego to achieve massive corporate turnarounds.
Massive ones.
The sources highlight that he once saved a corporate board $50 million.
Yeah, 50 million. That is the power of metrics over emotion at a massive scale.
Because you don't save $50 million just by tweaking a marketing budget.
No, you save it through smarter capital deployment. In large-scale projects, C-suite executives often fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll pour millions and millions into a failing pet project just because their personal reputation is tied to its success.
Right, their ego's on the line.
So Andreano steps in, he applies that strategic detachment, looks at the hard metrics, and he just kills the zombie projects. He stops the bleeding.
He also took an 8-year distressed company loss and turned it into a 1 million ringgit profit in a single year.
Which is astounding.
It really is. And again, you do not achieve an 8-year turnaround in 12 months by magically inventing some new product out of thin air.
No, you do it by auditing the organizational friction.
You slash the bloated overhead, you cut those legacy systems that are just dragging operations down.
And you force the board to face the reality that they have been in complete denial about.
But a turnaround like that requires a serious anchor, which brings us to another one of his maxims.
Which one?
First why, before how. Or, as he says it, when the why is clear, the how is easy.
Oh, yeah. That's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
I really see the connection there.
Yeah.
Because if the why, like the ultimate mission of that distressed company, if that is clear, then firing an underperforming department or killing a beloved product line is just the how.
Right.
It's just a mechanical step required to protect the overarching mission.
Exactly. Having that clear vision, it gives you the leverage to communicate brutal changes to your stakeholders.
Because they need to understand the reasoning.
Right. If your lead investor understands that a painful pivot is necessary to achieve the core mission, they'll ride out the turbulence with you.
But if you're just pivoting blindly without a clear why,
then it just looks like panic.
Right. So we have this really strong psychological foundation now. You audit your social circle, you ditch the denial, you embrace operational humility, and you anchor to your why.
It's a solid framework.
But, philosophizing doesn't execute a strategy.
No, it doesn't.
You need actual tools. And this leads us to Andreano's really fascinating stance on the modern digital economy. Specifically, his take on artificial intelligence.
Yeah, this is where it gets super practical. If you look at his YouTube channel, you see some highly provocative titles.
Yeah, I noticed those.
One video is titled, "AI is not your savior, it's your mirror."
I love that.
And another one asks, "AI as mentor the blind, leading the blind."
Honestly, based on those titles alone, it's so easy to assume he's just a tech skeptic.
Right.
It sounds like a veteran strategist telling the younger generation to, I don't know, throw their computers out the window and go back to analog whiteboards. Is he just anti-tech?
You would think so, but a look at his actual service offerings proves the exact opposite. Yeah, he spends his days heavily involved in digital economy integration.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He builds custom web apps for clients. He implements Zoho Enterprise Solutions, which, for those who don't know, is essentially the digital plumbing that centralizes a company's CRM, accounting, and inventory into one cohesive dashboard.
So he's actually deeply embedded in tech.
Deeply. He's not anti-technology at all.
Anti-delusion.
Exactly. He is anti-hype. Think about it like putting a Formula One jet engine onto a car that has a completely broken steering wheel.
That's a great analogy. It's just going to crash faster.
Exactly. That is exactly how he views AI for a struggling business. If your foundational strategy is built on denial and your internal processes are chaotic, plugging AI into your business isn't going to save you.
It's going to automate your chaos.
Yes. It will scale your flaws at light speed.
AI is your mirror. That is such a brilliant mechanism to understand because AI relies on training data, right?
Right.
And prompt engineering. So if your business data is a fragmented mess because you lack operational humility, the AI is just going to reflect that incompetence right back at you, only faster.
Faster and louder. Tech just accelerates the trajectory you're already on.
And that pragmatic, hyper-grounded approach to technology, that's why he focuses so heavily on the absolute basics of digital infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
Long before he ever talks about advanced automation.
Oh, yeah. There's a really specific example in his writings that perfectly encapsulates this. It's his war against what we can call the free mail trap.
Yes. This is such a simple yet totally overlooked concept.
Yeah.
He aggressively pushes SME founders to stop using Gmail or Yahoo for their business communications.
It sounds so minor, right? Like, who cares about an email domain?
Right.
But it's actually a masterclass in digital trust asymmetry.
Digital trust asymmetry. Break that down for us.
Consumers and investors, they judge your competence on these tiny microsignals long before they ever evaluate your actual product.
Oh, for sure. First impressions are everything.
So if you send a proposal asking for a 50,000 ringgit contract, and the email comes from like a free Yahoo address,
Yeah, that looks bad.
you have instantly eroded your credibility.
The asymmetry there is that it takes years to build a truly great product, but it literally takes 3 seconds for a client to completely dismiss you just because your email domain looks amateurish.
Exactly. The friction of distrust is introduced before the pitch even starts.
So how does he fix this for his clients?
Well, to solve this, he doesn't just point out the flaw, he actually engineered a solution. He offers this professional starter pack for SMEs.
Okay, what does that include?
For just 25 ringgit a month, a business gets 10 professional email users with a custom domain and a basic landing page.
25 ringgit. That is incredibly cheap.
That low price point is highly deliberate. It completely removes the barrier to entry for establishing baseline digital trust.
That makes total sense.
He's forcing founders to realize that you cannot worry about whether an AI language model can write your marketing copy if you haven't even paid the 25 ringgit to look like a legitimate incorporated entity.
Right, you have to build the floor before you try to paint the ceiling.
Beautifully said.
And, it is really worth noting how consistently he applies this pragmatism across his entire digital footprint.
Oh, absolutely.
He doesn't just consult on having multiple streams of growth, he actively practices it himself. Like, in his links, you'll actually find him promoting scientifically backed health supplements from a brand called For Life using an affiliate model.
Yeah, it's a great example of walking the talk.
It really is.
He fundamentally believes in optimizing physical vitality as a necessary component of business endurance.
Which ties right back to energy and boundaries.
Exactly. And he leverages a very functional affiliate marketing tool to create an additional revenue stream while doing it.
Oh.
It isn't just academic theory, it is applied real-world utility.
So what does this all mean for you? When you zoom out and synthesize these 3 decades of experience, the through line is undeniable. Growth is not bottlenecked by a lack of complex strategies.
No, it's not.
It is bottlenecked by a lack of brutal honesty. Whether you are auditing your social circle to stop the bleed of your personal energy,
Or you're a C-suite executive killing a pet project to save $50 million.
or even if you're a solo founder finally realizing you need to spend 25 ringgit a month to stop looking like an amateur.
The mechanism is exactly the same across the board.
It requires operational humility. It demands that you treat feedback as fuel, rather than a personal attack on your ego.
Yes.
And it means deploying technology as a tool to scale a sound strategy, not as some magic spell to rescue a broken one.
By systematically removing the ego, you remove the complexity. You allow the data to dictate the how, while you stay fiercely protective of the why.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to carry forward today.
Yeah, think about this. We spent time unpacking the case study of that founder who lost their lead investor and their entire business because they stubbornly refused to change a failing pricing model.
Right.
So look closely at your own operations today. Ask yourself, what is the pricing model in your life right now?
Oh, that's a powerful question.
What outdated belief, what draining relationship, or what failing strategy are you fiercely defending simply because you are afraid to admit you were wrong?
And more importantly, what kind of massive growth might you unlock the moment you finally choose strategic detachment over denial?